Hello, class. Professor Cisneros here. We're going to be doing a week 3 wrap up and looking at week 4, the two, and then of course after that is week 5. These are all connected and steps in how the countries are selected for a particular trial. So in week 3, we were looking at the study startup regulatory timelines. This is essentially the first step, and the whole point of this week was for each of you to take a look at the readings, and you were obviously assigned countries, as you know, two to each country with the exception of the U.S., and then put that information into a PowerPoint and to be able to visualize the timeline. For some of the timelines that I took a look at, I was a bit confused as to exactly what was going on. Let's say that for the IND approval would go on, let's say, for 5 months, and so that would go through May, but then the national ethics approval would also start in May, and so there was overlap there, and I wasn't sure if the intent was to have the IND go through May 15th, and then on May 16th, the national ethics approval starts and goes for 2 weeks, or does it go on for 6 weeks? And so there just when you're putting this together, there just needs to be clarity as to exactly what's going on here. You also had to take a look and understand what timelines could be done in parallel and what had to be done in sequence. It's very important to know that and to get it right, because if you try to submit items in parallel when they actually have to be done in sequence, there's a very good chance that it'll all get kicked back to you, and the whole process will start all over again. Another thing, some of the details are with doing this is if you decide to go through a country, and this is just the first step, but let's say that you decided to go with South Africa. It's very important to know exactly what needs to get done, all of the details. It's kind of like, it's almost like college admission forms without so much stress, that every line has to be completed and completed correctly. And so it's always a good idea to have not just one but two people to taking a look at this, to understand exactly what indeed that they are doing, and so that it is submitted and completed correctly and submitted to exactly who needs the correct person or department that it needs to be submitted to, and in the time frame that it needs to be submitted to. So all of those things are very important, because time is not something that is often that you have as a luxury in this type of situation. So those kinds of mistakes can be costly in that respect. There was I noticed that there were some conflicts between, let's say that you had two individuals or two students, two of you would have the same country, and they did not necessarily agree with how long something was going to take, or whether something needs to be done in parallel. And these are things that happen in a real life situation, and you have to get it right. Somebody has got to get that straightened up, and I would expect that in future, sometimes I saw some discussion between the students, and other times I didn't. But I expect that in future weeks that you take a look at what your student who had the same country, to take a look and ensuring that you're on the same page. I don't want you obviously plagiarizing what the other student did, but take a look and ensure that you're on the same page, and that and if you're not, why not? So jumping to week 4, you're building on the information that you're going to be ultimately using to make a decision as to exactly what countries you're going to have for your study. So this is going to be an allocation and assessment plan. You're looking at the enrollment estimates. There's a whole lot of information that is going to be provided to you for week 4. And because there's a lot of things that go into these decisions. Different sponsors use different ways of being able to utilize this into an algorithm. Some and essentially, it's decision is, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's made for the project manager, but they want to remove as much of the guesswork from from the from the project manager. Things that should be an automatic that aren't necessarily is going to be seen that way by a particular PM. So they try to do that, but ultimately it's going to fall on the project manager with consultation with others on the team to decide on that. I know when I was doing this, the last time I had a significant project, international project, it sort of fell on me. I had to do I collected all of this data and did sort of a mental algorithm. And but the most important thing is to be able to justify the list that you have. I started out, say, with, I think it was about 45 countries, and ended up with 32. And had to make those decisions. And again, always putting down exactly what you're doing and why, so that way 6 months down the road, when somebody from, say, I don't know, some Western European country comes to sees some VP at a meeting and says, "How come my country wasn't selected?" And they come to you and they say, how come this, I don't know, France wasn't selected for this particular study?" You can pull up your notes, and the information is there. It's very important that that information always be documented every step of the way. So let's see. As always, and like I just said, you will have to be providing rationale, and in this week, providing rationale in some of the decisions that you'll obviously be making. If you have any questions, I've already had an opportunity to speak with a number of you who've had questions. Feel free to reach out to me. Unfortunately, it's much more difficult at times because of my schedule to be checking email as often as I guess some of you would like. If you do send an email with questions, feel free to text me and to let me know that the email is there, or we can begin to have a dialogue via text, or just get on the phone. So good luck, and we'll see you in the discussion board.